Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote that he who has a why to live can bear almost any how, a phrase that echoes like thunder over our collective search for purpose. But what almost no one tells you is that the fuel of that very why has always been, and will always be, desire. For centuries, spiritual trends have repeated the same mechanical mantra that desire is the root of all human suffering, teaching us to transcend, to let go, to empty ourselves of all wanting in order to finally find peace. But if you pause for a single moment and look at the architecture of your own life, do you notice the scale of this paradox? Without the magnetism of desire, would you have ever learned to walk or speak? Would you have sought knowledge, created art, or fallen in love? Even your quiet search for evolution, your deepest longing to understand yourself, is still a desire. The problem was never the force of wanting itself, but rather that there are desires that expand your reality and distorted frequencies that secretly consume you. Welcome to Axis Soul. Question yourself, break your certainties, awaken your essence. If you have accepted that wanting is the driving force of existence, the next wall we need to tear down is the one separating what you truly are from the machine operating inside your head. Our civilization exhaustively debates visible dependencies, pointing fingers at substances, screens, and destructive habits that make the headlines, yet superbly ignores the most silent and dangerous tyranny of our time, the one taking place behind your eyes every single second. We have transformed into slaves of compulsive thinking. The intellectual tradition of the West made a grave historic error by decreeing that human existence is reduced solely to brain activity, creating a sick culture that simply cannot quiet the internal noise even during the deepest sleep. Think with me for a moment. Your mind should function strictly as a surgical tool, a high-precision technical instrument you activate to organize a material task, design a logical strategy, or solve a practical routine problem. As soon as the task is done, the natural thing would be to lay this instrument aside, returning it to absolute rest. But that is not what happens. Can you stop thinking when you want to? If the answer is no, then you do not own a tool. The tool owns you. It is estimated that 80 to 90% of everything that crosses your mind throughout the day is not only perfectly useless and repetitive, but, by virtue of a mechanical and defensive nature, is deeply harmful. It is an involuntary chatter that drains your vital energy, fragments your capacity to focus, and pulls you away from real wisdom, the kind that only flourishes when the need to label the world finally ceases. The ancient Stoic philosophers, such as Seneca and Epictetus, were already driving this same point home thousands of years ago. What disturbs and sickens human beings is never facts themselves, but rather the dramatic opinion they construct about those facts. External circumstance is rigorously neutral. The raw event merely witnesses the fabric of time. The flat tire on the road under the rain is just an airless tire. The bill that came due earlier than expected is just a numerical record. The end of an emotional cycle is just the end of a movement. It is your mind, addicted to creating friction, that insists on raising a stage of suffering over simple reality. It needs to stack catastrophic assumptions, dig through the past for culprits, and project terrible future scenarios to justify its own restlessness. We have become chemically dependent on our own mental stories. It is like an individual who cannot stop drinking or gambling, seeking in mental drama the stimulus that validates their own suffering. To break this obsessive gear, the initial step demands that you learn to unmask this internal narrator. Start by doing a basic test right now. Look at the space where you are. Observe the texture of a wall, the outline of a piece of furniture, or the light coming through the window. but try to do so without translating the scene into words. Do not say whether it is beautiful, ugly, old, or new. Simply contemplate matter before the intellect shows up to domesticate it with definitions. When you strip away conceptual labels from pure reality, the ego's hyperactivity loses its ground immediately, because it discovers it has no use left when the world is accepted exactly as it presents itself. Thought operates like a relentless gravitational force. It behaves like a subtle, parasitic entity that must suck your conscious attention to keep existing and growing. If you give it room, it will use any trick to drag you out of the now. It takes possession of the physical sensations of your flesh, suddenly whispering that you are bored, that you need to open the fridge, check your messages, or meticulously plan what you will do next weekend. The second you bite that bait, you are gone. You have abandoned your actual presence to go searching for a ghost destination inside the projection of your own mind. The common mistake made by most who seek spiritual evolution is trying to fight this dynamic with aggression, trying to force the mind to stop. But the truth Eastern sages have always known is that direct combat only feeds the monster, because fighting against thought is still thinking. The strategic way out is not force, it is retreat. Adopt the posture of the silent observer. When a heavy idea or a financial worry arises, do not cling to it and do not try to push it away. Simply view the thought as if it were a dark cloud floating across the open sky. You do not judge the cloud. You do not say it is evil because it blocks the sun, nor that the white cloud is virtuous. Clouds are just temporary phenomena in the atmosphere. The same applies to what goes through your head. It is just an isolated wave crossing the field of your awareness. By witnessing the movement without blending into it, something extraordinary happens. Focus shifts from the noisy margin to the stable center. Melancholy or urgency may still knock on your heart's door, but you no longer mistake yourself for them. You realize you are the changeless space through which these moods pass, experiencing, perhaps for the first time in your life, a legitimate sense of autonomy and self-mastery. True lucidity does not mean regressing into a primitive state of apathy or falling below intellectual capacity. It means positioning yourself firmly above it. In the awakened state, the mind remains available to be used in a brutally focused and effective manner whenever material survival demands it, but the involuntary internal dialogue ceases completely. It is the retrieval of what the philosophers of ancient Greece called ataraxia, the absolute peace of mind born when we stop waging conceptual wars against the world. Every time you manage to open a small space of silence in the continuous stream of your worries, even if for a measly 3 seconds, the light of your real perception gains ground over the illusion of the ego. At first, these gaps of empty mind seem short and rare, but with constant practice, the spans between thoughts widen. It is in these cracks of absolute silence that true self-mastery solidifies. Thought requires consciousness to manifest, but your essence needs no words to be whole and perfect. Therefore, renounce the neurotic need to decipher existence through rational logic all the time. Feel the exact weight of your body right now. Listen to the empty space supporting the noises around you, and understand that you have never been the nonstop voice in your head. You have always been the silent witness that listens. When you honor the raw simplicity of the present moment, the fiction of suffering runs out of oxygen, and life flows with fluidity once more. Remain in the integrity of the now. Awaken your essence. Axis Soul.